They say he comes for the unprotected, the ones left alone in the dark. In Portugal, a 5-year-old girl vanished, not from her home, but from our world. The Sleep Goblin took her, locked her inside a nightmare that loops forever. Her body stayed in bed, eyes closed, breathing, but her mind was trapped, running, hiding, over and over, while something hunted her in the dark. His name is João Pestana. Tonight, we'll uncover who this goblin is and why he comes for children who can't defend themselves. But they say he steals your eyes and traps you in an endless nightmare. Before we dive in, if you've seen something you can't explain or lived through something that still keeps you up at night, tell us. Head over to Ghordan.com. It's free, quick, and maybe your story's next. Before we get to the girl, you need to understand who or what we're dealing with. In Portugal, the name João Pestana is almost harmless when you first hear it. Parents whisper it to make their children go to bed. Close your eyes. João Pestana's coming. It sounds almost like a lullaby. Almost. But every lullaby has a shadow. The original stories paint him as a gentle figure, the man of sleep, a bringer of rest. He walks quietly through the streets at night carrying a small pouch of magic dust. With a pinch of it in your eyes, you drift into dreams. He's the Portuguese cousin of the Sandman, the figure that appears in Northern European folklore. In Germany, they call him Der Sandman, the man of the sand. In England, simply the Sandman. Different names, same purpose, to make you sleep. But here's the thing. In the oldest versions of these stories, the Sandman wasn't gentle at all. In an 18th century German tale, he was said to visit children who refused to sleep and throw sand into their eyes until they bled. Then he'd pluck the eyes out and carry them away in a sack to feed his own children on the moon. The Portuguese never wrote stories quite that dark, at least not for children. But the whispers were there, and whispers have a way of turning into something worse. Somewhere along the way, João Pestana stopped being just a bedtime story. In the darker corners of Portugal's countryside, they don't call him the man of sleep anymore. They call him the Sleep Goblin. A goblin is nothing like the fairy tale tricksters you see in picture books. A real goblin is small, fast, and built for one purpose: to get what it came for. They say João Pestana is no taller than a child. His skin is gray and wrinkled, like paper left out in the rain. His fingers are too long for his hands, each one ending in a curved yellow nail. His eyes are huge and unblinking, glowing faintly in the dark, and he always carries a sack slung over his shoulder. What's inside that sack depends on who you ask. Some say it's filled with dreams stolen from the people he visits. Others say it's heavier than that, full of eyes, each one still holding the last image it saw before it was taken. Old people will tell you he only comes for those who fight sleep, the ones who lie awake long after the lights go out. First you hear the sound, like sand spilling slowly onto the floor. Then you feel the weight in the air, pressing down on you. The door creaks, and there he is, watching. He doesn't rush. He doesn't have to. Once he's in the room, the game is already over. The longer you look into those eyes, the heavier yours become. until they close and the nightmare begins. The Sandman of Northern Europe sends you to sleep. The João Pestana of the city sends you to sleep. But the Sleep Goblin of the old Portuguese countryside, he keeps you there. It's not the sleeping that's dangerous, it's the waking, because if he decides to keep you, you don't wake up at all. In the story of the girl from Portugal, her mother didn't mean it. She just wanted her to stop lying about bedtime. So she said the words millions of parents had said before, "Go to sleep, or João Pestana will come for you." Most kids would laugh it off, this one didn't. That night, she didn't just fall asleep, she vanished into it. Her body stayed behind, but her mind went somewhere else. Now, you can call this superstition, you can say it's just a folktale, but if you talk to people in the small towns, you'll hear something different. You'll hear about children who slept for days, weeks, even months, about doctors who couldn't find anything wrong, about parents who swore they saw tiny footprints by the bed or piles of fine dust on the floor in the morning. And always the same warning: if João Pestana comes for you, keep your eyes closed and never let him take them. Some say he's just a story, some say he's real. But me, I say this: stories don't leave footprints. The night it happened, the girl went to bed late. Her tablet was hidden under the blanket. She thought she'd fooled them again. Mother was tired, angry. She said it without thinking. If you don't sleep, João Pestana will come and take you away. 5 minutes later, the house was silent. She thought the girl had finally obeyed. As by morning, they couldn't wake her. At first, they thought it was exhaustion. Then the minutes became hours. The hours, a full day. And then another, 2, 3. The doctor said she was alive, healthy, but completely unresponsive, a deep, unnatural coma. Her parents sat by her bed, holding her hands, whispering her name, but she didn't hear them. She was somewhere else. In that somewhere else, the girl woke up in her own bedroom, or at least it looked like her bedroom. The walls were too tall, the corners too dark, the shadows too heavy, as if they had weight. She called for her mother, no answer. She ran to the door, but when she opened it, she was back in the same room. Same bed, same shadows. She tried the window, same thing. Every way out led back to where she started. The sound came next. Soft, dry, a slow shh, like sand spilling from a hand. At first, it was faint, then louder, closer. She turned toward the door and saw him, João Pestana, small, hunched, skin the color of ash, eyes too big for his head, shining like wet glass, a long, crooked smile cutting through his face. In one hand, a handful of fine, glimmering dust. In the other, the strap of a sack, bulging and shifting, as if something inside was still moving. He stepped in without a sound. The sand trickled from his fingers to the floor. The dust swirled in the air, making her eyelids heavy. She rubbed her eyes, fighting it. He tilted his head, curious, and whispered, "Don't fight it. You'll be here forever anyway." She screamed and ran to the door, but the moment her hand touched the knob, she was back at the bed. Same room, same air, same sound of sand falling. It happened again and again. Every time she tried to escape, the loop reset. And every time, he was a little closer. In the real world, her mother swore she saw her daughter's eyes moving wildly under her lids, her lips twitching, a small tear slipping down her cheek. The doctors called it REM activity. Her mother called it fighting for her life. Inside the nightmare, the goblin's voice followed her. "You can't wake up, not until I take them." He tapped the side of his sack. It made a dull, wet sound. She hid under the bed. He bent down, his face filling the gap between the floor and the mattress. She saw every wrinkle, every crack in his gray skin, and his teeth, small, sharp, too many for one mouth. But the loop didn't stop. Bedroom, door, back to bed. Window, back to bed. Hallway, back to bed. Each cycle he was closer, until she woke up and found him already sitting on the bed, one hand reaching toward her face. She screamed without sound. The room flickered, dark, light, dark again, and then she was standing by the door, back at the start. That's how she spent 2 months, running, hiding, looping, every second closer to losing something she couldn't get back. Her mother said that sometimes in the hospital, she'd hear her daughter whisper words she couldn't understand. Once she caught them clearly. "Don't take him, please, don't take him." In the dream, the goblin would just smile. "It's not your time yet, but it will be." And every time she closed her eyes in that nightmare, she could feel him leaning closer. The sound of sand falling and the cold brush of his fingers just under her eyelids. Some cages have no bars, and some escapes don't mean you're free. It happened on an ordinary morning. The same hospital room, the same machines, the same stillness that had lasted 2 months. Her mother was holding her hand when it happened. She said there was no warning, no twitch, no sound, no slow opening of the eyes. They just suddenly awake. The girl gasped for air, like she'd been drowning for years. Her eyes started around the room, and then she began to cry. The doctors rushed in, asked questions, shined lights in her eyes, checked her pulse, her brain activity. Everything came back normal, too normal. No one could explain why she had been gone for so long or why she was back now. Later, her mother asked what she remembered. The girl wouldn't answer at first. Then she whispered, "He almost took them, but I ran." When her mother asked, "Took what?" the girl just looked away, but her eyes, her wide, unblinking eyes, said enough. That night, the girl fell asleep again. Her mother stayed beside her the whole time, afraid to even blink. She told him she listened for hours, waiting for that sound, the faint hiss of sand on the floor. It never came, not that night. For weeks, the girl refused to sleep alone. She'd wake in the middle of the night screaming, saying she saw him in the corner, waiting. But the doctors called it post-traumatic stress. Her mother called it what it was, a warning. But the guilt in her voice was heavier than her certainty. Because the truth is, we only know this story because she told it, because she regrets the words she spoke that night. João Pestana will come and get you. She said it to scare her daughter into sleeping. She never imagined it would invite something into their home. People think legends are harmless. They tell them to make kids behave. But every legend starts somewhere, and somewhere it's still happening. Some believe João Pestana is just a story, a cultural cousin of the Sandman dressed in Portuguese skin. Others believe he's real, a goblin who hunts the edges of sleep, looking for those who wander too far from safety. So, is he a myth, or is he the reason some people never wake up? I don't have that answer, but I know this. In a quiet hospital in Portugal, a little girl slept for 2 months and came back afraid of closing her eyes. And fear? Like, that doesn't come from nothing. They say João Pestana steals your eyes and traps you in a nightmare you can never escape. Maybe it's just a story. Or maybe tonight he's walking past your window and maybe he's counting. Some doors can only be opened from the inside. The question is, what happens if something else opens them for you? What do you believe? Was this superstition or a warning we've been ignoring? Tell us in the comments. If you made it this far, you know this isn't the last story we'll tell. We're already digging into more legends, more encounters, and more things you won't find in bedtime stories. If you want to be here when the next one drops, hit subscribe, and if this story kept you watching, leave a like. Until next time, stay in the light.